Attention please. This upload is only for educational purpose. No intention to infringe copyrights. Learning English with subtitles. GPITRAL. GPITRAL. Definitely a must-see. Follow us.
In western Kentucky, there's an old train trestle over the Poplick Creek that many believe is guarded by a monster. A goat man that lures teenagers to try crossing the span.
I was about 14 years old when I heard about the stories of the goat man at the trestle. We'd drive out here to Poplick Road, and we would walk up on the railroad tracks to see if anything would come out of the woods and try to scare us away.
The giant horned goat, half man, half beast, is an ancient image of the devil itself. The origins of the Poplick monster are more murky.
One story is that it was a circus train going through and lightning hit it, and the goat man emerged out of that. Another was that there was a farmer way too familiar with his goats, and they bred a goat together. Another one more interesting, actually, is the farmer was mistreating his goats, and they came back as a man to revenge on the people that came out there.
There's little doubt, however, about the legend's hold on teenagers. On a February night in 1988, 17-year-old J.C. Baum and two friends were on the Poplick Road near the railroad trestle.
J.C., knowing more about the goat man than Chris and their friend, really wanted to come out here and investigate.
As we were sitting in the car, you could see out the windshield these trestles.
They were now in earshot of the monster's call. A creature rumored to imitate voices, hypnotize the unsuspecting, and entice them to climb the tracks.
Hey, there's some tree trunks there. Come on, let's go.
And he got out of the car and he started saying, "Let's go," and
Let's go.
They were drawn out here to find it and to know the goat man, to be the first one in town to have seen the goat man.
By risking a climb to the trestle, many believe they must have been possessed, in a trance by the monster, unable to notice the oncoming train, charging their way.
JC wanted to walk across them, climb up on one side and walk to the other side. As we walked out, the ties got further and further apart the further out you got. As we got further, the distance between the ties, was instead of 6 inches, it was a foot, and then it was 2 foot, and you had to step pretty far.
It's terrifying to go up there. You're halfway into the clouds, and all just ahead of you is this narrow track and nothing else.
There's a large bend that comes around the corner up there. You could all of a sudden see the trees light up. As the headlight of the train started to come, and you could see the light, and at that point, it's probably 3/4 of a mile away. And somebody said, "Oh, there's a train."
Train!
Once we saw the train, it happened so quickly. It was there so fast. You didn't really have time to think about anything other than getting out of the way. You didn't make it very far before you decided to go over the edge.
On a misty evening, the train travels at speed over the trestle bridge.
Miraculously, Chris and the other teenagers survived. As for JC, he lost out to the monster and the train. His broken body was found further up the tracks.
JC walked out looking for the goat man himself, and the train came around the corner. It was a farce, it was a trick, and the spirit of the goat man got him.
The doorbell rang, and I jumped up out of bed, and the first thing that went through my mind was, darn it, JC's forgotten his key again. I got up and went out to open the door for him. The police chaplain was standing there. He said, I'm sorry. You can't, you only imagine that moment. There's just nothing worse.
There's been at least 3 deaths on the Pope Lake Trestle. 2 of them in the 1980s, another one in more modern times in 2000.
For generations, the monster's legend has worked like bait. And tragically, young people respond.
I made it my calling to find out what the goat man was and where he was and what it was that JC saw. I wanted to put the puzzle pieces together.
Without telling her mom, Lee climbed the hill at Pope Lake, gambling that she could take on the monster that killed her brother.
As I walked out on the trestle, I felt fear, yet that my curiosity continued to push me. I wanted to see what JC saw. I wanted to find the goat man for him.
Lee stands on the track.
In western Kentucky, the train trestle over Pope Lick Creek is said to be the lair of a goatman monster. Friends and family can't explain why 17-year-old J.C. Baum was so determined to cross the span. In the wake of his death, his sister Lee decided to see if she could find the monster.
I wanted to understand the goat man, and I wanted to understand what JC was looking for. I did climb the hill. I climbed about a quarter way out on the tracks. I was frozen. I felt fear, but my curiosity continued to lead me out.
Lee survived the ordeal, and it brought her closer to the truth about the monster. Yet even today, she relives the fear anytime she's close.
Oh, wow. Excuse me a minute. Oh, God, that's it. That's it. That's it. That's a train. You feel it. I've been out here numerous times. I've yet to see the goat man, but I don't give up hope that maybe somewhere, somehow, he lives under the bridge out here.
When I found out that Lee had gone up there, I was terrified. I was terrified. Why would you do that? Lee did what she had to do to honor her brother and his memory. And it's the only thing she knew to do that was uniquely hers and his.
Despite JC's horrendous death, this small circle of friends and family has found peace. In fact, the healing began the very night JC was killed.
I just remember standing in the front door with the chaplain, and she was on the other side of the living room, and she just kind of like jogged across the living room to me and said, "Thank God you're okay." And never said anything else. Ran up to me, gave me a hug, and said, "Thank God you're okay," which was one of the most selfless things I've ever heard anybody say.
It was bad enough that JC was dead, but it could have been 2 or 3. And it wasn't. And I was grateful that at least Chris was okay. And I really felt that way. And I so admired his courage to come and face me and to talk to me about it. And he did. He came and he sat down and we talked about what happened.
A reenactment of Sue hugging Chris post-accident.
Recently, Sue and her son's best friend, Chris, visited the Pope-lit trestle together to reflect on that terrible night when a 17-year-old boy challenged the monster and lost the battle and his life.
A photo of JC wearing a suit and tie fills the screen.
I think it's certainly a possibility that something lives up there that lures the teenagers, that encourages them. Is it a goat man? I don't know. But something attracts the teenagers, and I didn't see that back then.
On the side of a wooden sleeper on the trestle, Goatman is written in capital letters. A train rattles across the bridge, which is nestled in a densely wooded valley.
The forests of the Ozarks hold many secrets, but not all of them are lurking in darkness. In one place, the darkness is overcome by an unexplainable light, an incandescence that seems born of magic.
Caption: Spook light.
Near Missouri's border with Oklahoma, there's a lonely country road that's been the scene of an Ozark mystery going back to the 1860s. A place where a glowing orb, called the spook light, suddenly appears from nowhere.
People have seen it in hot summer nights. People have seen it in, in the middle of a, tornado. But on a good night, you may see it 2 or 3 times in a 4 or 5 hour period.
It has a tendency to disappear. One minute you're driving down the road and it's in front of you and you peak this one small hill and you turn around and it's behind you now.
We were actually looking towards the west, and all of a sudden somebody says, "Hey, it's right behind us." So it kind of snuck around and came up behind us, and hence the spook light.
How can a ball of light be at one place and then within a fraction of 2 seconds be behind you?
And we watched it turn colors and move. And the whole time you're thinking, how does this possible?
There's no doubt witnesses are seeing something. Explaining it is harder. Through the years, theories about the spook light have come and gone.
In the 60s, Popular Mechanics did an investigation around the lights from Route 66 bouncing off the clouds basically and back down onto this road that's kind of sits parallel with it.
Researchers have tried tracking car headlights from various roadways without much luck. And as residents point out, the spook light was seen hundreds of years ago, before there were cars. Speculation has run the gamut, from the devil to UFOs.
One of the legends was that it had to do with 2 Native Americans that were from different tribes that weren't allowed to get married.
And the chief kills the other one, and the light is basically his soul that's going around looking for, his family.
The legends get passed on. It's just what families do. You tell your children, and your children tell their children, and it just keeps it alive. The Ozarks are rich with this history because the families have been there for a long time.
Julie Crockett Carver knows more than a few things about legend and lore.
I am a descendant of Davy Crockett. I believe that the Davy Crockett strength and spirit is very strong in our family.
Julie found an unusual way to tap into that strength and spirit. Teaming up with an old friend unexpectedly put them both on a path to encountering the magic of the spook light.
But that one on the edge right here, I really wanted to see it because everybody's talking about this phenomenon, this light, that ball of light that dances across, and I really wanted to see that so bad.